Hello, can everybody hear me okay? I think the sound might be down too low. Okay, now you should be able to hear me okay. Welcome to Couchbase Coding with Matthew Groves. This is a 10-minute slice of my day as a developer advocate, live every day. Check out all the episodes on YouTube up there at that URL. Email me or tweet me comments and questions and your suggestions. I would absolutely love to hear from you. All right, so this week I thought about focusing on some .NET stuff, some Couchbase extensions for .NET, and it just happens to work out that I'm creating some content, or recreating some content, I guess, for my trip to Michigan next week, which I'll be blogging about soon. I'll be hitting a lot of .NET user groups up in Michigan, so I wanted to dust off some of my older content that one of the groups has requested specifically, and introduce some Couchbase to it. It just happens to be a caching related project. So I've got some requirements up here on the screen I've written down. I'm going to create a sort of a mock-up, a demo of a car price lookup app. You can imagine going to look up the market value price of a used car or something. The user is just going to enter a make, model, year, and they're going to get a car value in return. We're going to assume that the car value lookup is dependent on some slow legacy system, maybe an old database or some sort of API or something that's relatively slow, right? It's not it's sort of slower than we'd like it to be, right? And we can't do much about that. So what we can do is we can use Couchbase to actually cache that car value. So the user looks it up. If they need to look it up again, or some other user needs to look it up, it's going to be a faster lookup for them. All right, and the architecture of this system is going to be simple ASP.NET, probably core app here. I'm going to stick with Razor probably. We'll see how it goes. Don't need it necessarily in JavaScript to demonstrate the core concepts. I'll use MVC in the background, just two actions, one to show the form and one of them to actually process the form submission. And then that form submission is going to use a service, and that service is going to be a simulation of a slow legacy request. We'll just put a thread sleep in there, for instance, to kind of simulate that. And then eventually, this is the special thing they've requested, is some AOP, some aspect-oriented programming to apply caching aspects to that service. I'm not going to get into AOP too much, at least not today. The minimum is to just get Couchbase caching extensions up and running in a brand new ASP.NET web application. And that's really it. So let's start with Couchbase. I've got a local Couchbase instance running. I've got this my cache bucket. Ignore these other tickets, that's from last week. This is where I'm going to put the data that I'm going to cache. And so just a quick look at the settings. I've only given it 100 megabytes of RAM. This is just a demo application, very, very small bit of usage. 100 megabytes is the minimum. That's more than enough that we need. I've selected the typical Couchbase bucket type. For caching though, ephemeral, if I can say it, ephemeral might be a good choice for caching because that's just memory only. No need to introduce any disk reading or writing to it. But Couchbase is fine for the demonstrations. And from an SDK developer's point of view, it doesn't really matter. Couchbase, ephemeral, they work the same way with the code. You might want to enable a max time to live on a bucket. Since we're using it for caching, we want the data that's stored in there to eventually get tossed, get thrown away, because it could be old, stale data. We want that to go away. So it's probably a good idea to specify a maximum time to live. You can also specify this at the individual document level. So this isn't required per se, but probably a good policy to have in there. I've given it 5 minutes, 300 seconds as a maximum time to live, although I'll probably set to a lower time on the document, like 30 seconds, because this is just for demonstration. And you might also think about ejection method as well. Do you want to kick out the entire value, or just the everything but the key from memory? You might want to think about that. I'm going to leave it value only for now. Again, this is for demonstration. It's probably fine. Not going to make any difference that we're going to notice. But these are some settings to think about when you're using Couchbase for caching. So that's what I'm going to do there. It's called My Cache. I've got a user I created from before called Matt that I'll use to actually provide authentication. Okay, we're switching over to Visual Studio now. I'm going to do a file, new project. Just a quick note, we're already at the 6-minute mark. This is probably going to be a longer stream than normal, and that's totally fine. So I'm going to do after I turn off the stream anyway, so I may as well keep streaming, show you what I'm doing as we work our way through it. It's going to be a web project, and I'm going to say ASP.NET Core. Put this in my project folder, And the session that I'm doing is called AOP for you and me. And I'm going to call it that. Create new directory, and okay. Should get a second window here of what I want to do with it. Web application with core, that's going to be good enough, and ASP.NET Core 2. Now, I haven't researched yet if my AOP framework of choice, PostSharp, is going to work with ASP.NET Core 2. I think it will, though, so that's probably safe for now. Don't need any authentication, don't need Docker. Okay, now I blogged about this a while ago. Whoops, wrong one. A while ago, back in September. So I'm just going to go through what I blogged, and hopefully everything still works. This will be a nice test of how well my content holds up to that. So let us first add a dependency here. It is called Couchbase extensions. There's several of these for session and DNS discovery. What I'm interested in is caching. And if we notice, caching also has a dependency on dependency injection and the Couchbase Net Client. So if I install this, it's going to install all those things for me. Looks like 1.0.1 is a stable version. So when I last blogged about it, it was actually still in beta. So hopefully not much has changed since then. There you can see all the stuff it's going to actually install. Some cryptography stuff for OpenSSL. Fine. And licenses. I should read all of these, probably, but I'm not going to do that for the stream. Okay, so those look like they're all installed, all up to date. Good. All right, and now let's go to startup. This is the startup file used to configure my project. I'm going to go look for configure services, and this is typically where I want to, add different stuff like caching or other types of providers. So we'll start by adding Couchbase, services.add Couchbase. And this might actually add in, you can see it's added in namespace for me automatically. I think that is JetBrains ReSharper doing that for me. So we're going to add Couchbase, and I'm going to, I could pull from a config file. I don't really need to do that for this. I'm just going to hard code in my configuration options, and we'll say options.servers. Oh, what happened? I hit my screen capture button by mistake. Servers equals new list, and it's distributed, so I could specify a number of different nodes, but I only have just the one local for now, and that's going to be plenty for demonstration. We'll point to that with localhost 8091. I think I put in something I shouldn't have. Oh, doesn't it like? Oh yeah, gotta put this in there. What am I missing here? Options servers. That's what I want. Okay. I don't need this parenthesis up there. Okay. Fine. So that sets up Couchbase. That sets up Couchbase dependency injection and the configuration for it. Now I'm going to need to set up the caching as well. Services.add distributed Couchbase cache. So this is kind of following the same pattern as you see up there with using in-memory cache or Redis or SQL Server. We're going to use Couchbase for this, and I called it my cache. Is that right? I believe that's what I called it. If I look at the buckets, yes, my cache is the name of the bucket. And let's see, I think that's it. Do I need anything else? What else do I need to specify? Setup action, so I can set up another set of options, but I don't need anything to be done there. One thing I do need to do is actually add some authentication to this. If I can figure out how to do this. Option dot username equals Matt, and option dot password equals my super secret password of password. Okay, so I think at that point we're in good shape. We have it configured correctly. And if I go over to, what's this, pages? Interesting, I don't see controllers here. Did I mess something up? There's MVC. So maybe if I'll just create a new folder for controllers. Create one in there called home controller Hope I'm doing this right. I haven't actually done a Razor site in a while. MVC and public. This is what action result of index. And we'll just, I don't know, let's just return a string. I can't do a string. This I have to do content, right? Content result. Or can I just say content? Yeah, so say hello world. Just to make sure this is up and running. And let's just run it. That's like the minimum I can do, I think. So let's see if that works. Okay, where is it finding these Razor views? Am I missing something here? It must be on the pages. Index. So I must be missing something here. With some routing, perhaps. Program. Startup. Use MVC. Okay, well, I'm a little confused. We're definitely over the 10 minutes here, so just keep that in mind if you are strapped for time. But what if I did home index? Pretty sure that's where this is at right now. It doesn't seem to like that URL. This is not returning content. Home index. Nothing there. Okay, well, what if I, let's see, can I just do like an add new from template, and I'm going to say controller. I'm going to call this home controller. What does this do? Give me home controller. It put it right there in the root. That's interesting. I'm going to just do new content again. Hello world. Just want to get this to show up. I'm going to actually create Razor pages at some point, but just want to make sure this actually works. Okay. Let's call it something else. Let's call this foo. Maybe there's a conflict here with the route. Oh, did I compile? I think I must have. Okay. Well, I'm definitely failing today on this fine Monday. If anyone's following along that can help me out here, must be missing something. Let's get rid of this. So this is definitely the index that it's bringing up, but I don't see the actual controller code for it. It must not be some. It must be going right to the CS HTML. So perhaps that's the problem, is that it's picking this up automatically. I got an exception from something. Okay. Oh. I'm seeing this page model. That's interesting. I thought I selected MVC. So this is some sort of just standard ASP.NET thing here. I don't know. Alright. Now let's go ahead and create that folder again. Controllers. Home controller. Controller is a base class. And public action result index. Returning good old hello world. Let's see if that's the problem here. I definitely want to use MVC. Are we having a problem with the build? What's going on here? We got an error. Could not copy. Okay, so I must have the web service running somewhere that's got a file locked. So I'm going to stop that off screen and try build. Okay. Now what do we got? Hello world? Yes? No? Maybe? Okay. Something's not going right here. Well, I can't really stop until I get something successful. I will not be satisfied. Until that happens. So we're at the 17-minute mark here. What doesn't it like? So let's exclude that again, and let's go to the template. New from template, controller. Again, we'll see the world. I don't think there's anything magical about it being in the root here, though. It doesn't seem to be happy with me. Let me see. Distributed cache. Oh, use static files. Maybe that's what it is. It's looking for a static file and it's not there. I don't think that's it though, because use static files shouldn't interfere with routing like that. Okay. Well, let's try something else. Let's try a different template. Maybe I messed something up. Alright, and we'll just call this one Delete Me, since I'm just sort of figuring out what I did wrong here. Oh, you know what? I selected this one, didn't I? ASP.NET Core Razor pages. Yes, this is what I meant. Okay, so we'll see what the difference is in the template. I clicked the wrong thing. Okay, so now I see controllers here and views. Okay, this is much more like it. So I called this Delete Me, but I need to rename it. So let's go ahead and close that solution there. And then I will whack the one that I messed up, which doesn't seem to want to go away. Probably because I've got something locked with Visual Studio. Off screen here, I'm deleting a folder. So, okay, I'm bringing Visual Studio back up. I have to go through some of this again. That's okay. New project, ASP.NET Core Web, and we'll call it AOP for you and me. Creating that folder. Yes, we'll select MVC this time. This will give me what I want. I probably should have tested that out before I did all the configuration with Couchbase. To go through that again. Sorry about that. NuGet, Couchbase extensions, caching, install. So just FYI, if you guys are trying to chat, I'm not seeing them either place. So I choose to believe that something's going wrong, and not that anybody watching is just letting me twist in the wind like this. Try add distributed Couchbase cache. Okay. Oh, nope, I wanted to do... That's fine, but I wanted to do Couchbase first. Couchbase. Options. Like that. Inside of this, options.servers. List URI. And new URI localhost 91. And I wanted to give it some username, some credentials, password. Good. And then now we're going down here to distributed cache with the my cache buckets and options, just an empty sort of options function call. We might use that later, but right now, no big deal. Okay, good. And then over here in controllers, we've got home controller. And just to show that I'm actually doing something here, content hello world. Still not using the actual caching yet, but just to get the MVC project up and running. Oh, I'm off screen there. There we go. Hello world. All right. Whew. So what is different? I guess maybe this. Yeah, I don't think I had the routes actually in here. That's probably the main thing, because everything else looks the same. So that's fine. I probably could have figured this out myself, but it was easier to do a file new. Okay, and then now let's just make sure we have the cache working. So in the home controller, I'm going to get a constructor here. Now, remember we brought in the dependency injection stuff as well. So it's going to just build on top of that and give us this nice distributed cache object, which I believe is from Microsoft. Yeah, this interface is a Microsoft interface that Couchbase Extensions is implementing. So put that there. And I'm just going to do it in the controller, although I don't intend to keep it here in the long run. This should be something that actually goes into the aspect, or at the very least, down a level. I don't want to put it at the UI level. And if, the whole reason of AOP is that I don't have to repeat the same thing over and over for every single method, every single action. So I definitely don't want this. This is what's called a cross-cutting concern. That's what a cache is. So I don't want that to be scattered and tangled out through my actual code. But for the purposes of getting it up and running, we'll just put in here for now. Okay. And then in the actual action here, I'm going to say, all right, let's check to see first, if a value is already in cache. In the cache. Now I know it's not yet, but we'll just say a message is cache. Get string. We'll make it a string, and we'll give it a key of something like cache string 1. Okay, and then we'll say if that message is null, then it's not in the cache, right? It's return a null value is nothing in the cache yet. And so we'll give it something like date time of now plus just a little separator plus like a GUID. We don't need to do toString there. Okay, and then we'll stick that in the cache. Set string with that same key, cache string 1, and the actual message. Okay, and then we'll return, just using that same content thing, the actual message. All right, so the first time, what doesn't it like about this? Oh, return type is void. Oh, what am I doing? I'm doing this in the actual constructor. Okay, not where I meant to do it. I meant to do it down here in the index. Okay, so it's going to use that cache object, see if there's a message there. If not, it's going to put one in the cache and then return that message. Okay, so the first time through, it'll actually run this code. The second time through, it's only going to run this and this. And then we'll see that value show up in the cache. Okay, so that's the message we noticed from the cache. And if I bring up Couchbase in the cache bucket, see there's one document in there, and notice that it's a binary document. Right, we're not storing JSON now. We're using Couchbase as a very opaque cache. We're not going to be able to query any of this data or anything like that. We don't need to. All we need to do is just get that actual object, which will probably be serialized in some sort of .NET or binary format. All we care about is the key. All right. So if I refresh this again, you can see even though I keep refreshing, the timestamp stays the same because I'm pulling the value from the cache, the message from the cache. And if I go ahead and delete this out of the cache, Now it's a cache miss, so it's going to reconstruct the string, put it back in the cache, and notice that I'm still refreshing. The time is not changing. Now, I know that I set the cache to TTL to be expired after 5 minutes, right? So you can see the expiration is going to be here. I can also set this in the individual document level, I think. So if I set this here, I can set a... I think this is something... This is another one of these? No. So I need to create this options object. I could just do a new, right in line here. New distributed cache entry options. I assume one of those is going to be expiration relative to now, so we'll do time span dot from seconds, and we'll just have it expire after, say, 5 seconds. Okay, so this individual document will expire after 5 seconds, even though I set the bucket time to be 5 minutes. So let's run this again. So there we go, and so I keep refreshing this. Wow, that seems to be refreshing relatively often. That can't be right. Is it not caching it? What's going on here? Is that too fast? Did I do this right? From seconds. Absolute expiration relative to now from seconds 5. Okay, I don't know. Absolute expiration is new date time offset of date time dot now add seconds 5 seconds. So that should expire after 5 seconds. I guess that's redundant. Okay. So every time I refresh, it should not be new value. Only after 5 seconds, it should be new value. So something's going wrong there. What did I do wrong? Let me look at my blog post here. With expiration. Oh, I think I vaguely remember this. Like right now, only sliding expiration actually works. The other ones are not implemented yet. So let's set this to 5 seconds. Yes, I'm seeing in my blog post, only sliding expiration is supported at this time. So that was true in the beta version, and it's also must still also be true of this version. Okay, so there we go. I'm refreshing and should, after 5 seconds, should get a new value. Yep, there we go. Okay, so that's good. I remembered that. Okay, so we've got a very, very basic caching working here. So now I need to actually go and build the UI for the really basic car example. I'm going to create a model that's going to simulate that slow legacy service, and then I'm going to build a series of steps for illustration purposes of how AOP could be applied to this, or how caching could be applied to this, and with the idea in mind that I'm going to create one service, but in a production code you're going to have a lot more than one service. Although with microservices these days that might not be as true. But in the monolithic app, you're going to have a lot of services there, and you're not going to want to write the same piece of boilerplate code over and over and over. So aspect-oriented programming is really going to help with that. Okay, so that's it for today. I will maybe follow up on this tomorrow, although it might look like a pretty big jump based on the code that you're seeing now, the code I'm showing tomorrow. But maybe we can talk about dependency injection a little more tomorrow. I plan to talk about some .NET stuff this week. All right, well, that's it for today. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, stuff you'd like to see in this application, or anything else for that matter, hit me on Twitter, up there, mgroves on Twitter. Email me, mgroves.com. Make sure to, I don't do this a lot, but make sure to subscribe to YouTube or Twitch if you want to get notifications of when I'm streaming and stuff like that. I would appreciate that if you could do that. And you can check our old episodes up there, tinyurl.com/cbcoding. That'll take you to a playlist, YouTube playlist of all the old videos. All right, so we went way long today. We're about 30 minutes over, which is fine. Don't normally go this long, but I'll experiment a little longer form today. But that's it. So I just want to say thank you for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow.